Welcome to McKiLL TV, and today we're looking back at yet another classic game. So we take a brief look back at 2006's F.E.A.R. F.E.A.R, also known as First Encounter Assault Recon, is a first-person shooter psychological horror game that puts an emphasis on action-oriented gameplay, as the game is action-packed as most first-person shooters are. But F.E.A.R has its core horror basis on its story of this game, and manages to be downright creepy at times. Even though most of the enemies in the game that the player will see the most are the replica forces. The replica forces are cloned super soldiers designed by Armacom Technology Corporation under the project Perseus. These replica soldiers were raised in response to a Department of Defense directive of Armacom to develop genetically engineered super soldiers that could be controlled telepathically by one of the game's main antagonists known as Paxton Fattel. And the replicas are the most common enemy throughout the game, along with Paxton Fattel and Elma Wade, which is the ghost girl we can see throughout the game. F.E.A.R is the first game in the series and was developed by Monolith Productions and originally published by Vivendi Games. But Day One Studios would help port the game to Xbox 360 and later to the PlayStation 3. The game's story revolves around the fictional F.E.A.R team, First Encounter Assault Recon Unit, an elite group in the United States Army tasked with investigating supernatural phenomenon. When a private military company's secret research project goes wrong, and a dangerous and powerful psychic is unleashed, F.E.A.R is called in, with the player taking on the role of the unit's newest recruit, simply known as Point Man. However, it soon becomes apparent there is much more going on than a rogue psychic, as Point Man finds himself facing a lethal, unpredictable, paranormal menace in the form of a young girl with extraordinary destructive power. Although the atmosphere of the game was heavily influenced by Japanese horror, Monolith's primary goal with F.E.A.R was to make the player feel like the hero of an action film. To this end, they combined a slow motion technique called reflex time, a semi-destructible environment, and a highly detailed particle system in an attempt to create an immersive atmosphere. Another vital element in this game is the AI, with Monolith employing a new, never-before-used technique to give hostile NPCs an unusually broad range of actions in response to what the player is doing. This results in NPCs who can also work as a team, such as performing flanking maneuvers, laying down suppressive fire, and attempting to retreat when under heavy fire. So in other words, the game's AI is pretty good. Upon its official PC release back in 2005, F.E.A.R was very well received, with the AI garnering special praise. Critics also alluded to the graphics, atmosphere, sound design, music, and combat mechanics as being pretty good overall. Common points of criticism were lack of enemy variety, weak plot, repetitive level design. The Xbox 360 version was also well received, but the PlayStation 3 version was met with mixed reviews, with many critics unimpressed with the port's technical issues and graphic inferiority. The game was a commercial success overall, selling over 3 million units worldwide across 3 platforms. As I had mentioned, F.E.A.R is a first-person shooter in which the player's arsenal includes handguns, which the player can dual-wield, assault rifles, submachine guns, shotguns, sniper rifles, repeating cannon, rocket launcher, and particle beam. Each weapon differs in terms of accuracy, range, and rate of fire, damage, and weight. And the characteristics are important for each gun, as the more powerful weapons such as rocket launcher and cannon and particle beam tend to be more cumbersome and slow, so the player's movement and reaction speed overall is slowed down when using it. Only 3 different firearms can be carried at once. The player also has access to 3 different types of explosives: frag grenades, proximity grenades, and remote bombs. The player can carry 5 of each type, and can carry all 3 at once, allowing up to 15 explosives. But only one type may be equipped at any time. Additionally, when using the remote bombs, the player must holster their weapon. When compared to other shooters, where melee combat is often a last resort, F.E.A.R's melee system is a viable combat alternative. The butts of all firearms can be used in close combat. Lighter weapons, although less powerful, allow the player to move around more quickly and increase the chances of successful melee attack. Movement speed is maximized if a player holsters the weapon, which allows them to engage in hand-to-hand combat, as well as the basic melee attack. Players can also perform a jumping kick, sliding tackle, both of which, if landed correctly, instantly kill regular enemies. One of the prominent gameplay elements in F.E.A.R is the reflex time, which is the ability in which slows down the game's world while still allowing the player to aim and react at normal speeds. Similar to a game like Max Payne, this effect is used to simulate the player's superhuman reflexes, and is represented by stylized visual effects such as bullets in flight that cause air distortion or interact with the game's particle system. The duration which reflex times last is limited, determined by a meter which slowly fills up automatically when the ability is not being used. The player can permanently increase the size of the reflex meter by picking up reflex boosters. Other pickups available during the game includes medkits, of which the player can store 10. Protective armor reduces the amount of damage the player takes during combat, and health boosters permanently increase the player's health meter. Reflex time is an important element of the game's combat mechanics. F.E.A.R's AI allows hostile NPCs to an unusually large range of actions. Enemies can duck, to travel under crawl spaces, jump through windows, vault over railings, climb ladders, and push over large objects to create cover, all in reaction to what the player is doing at any given moment. Various enemies may also act as a team, taking back routes to flank the player, using suppressive fire, taking cover, and often falling back if under fire, alerting one another to the player's location and giving one another orders which may or may not be followed. In 2002, an elite United States Army unit, F.E.A.R, was founded to combat paranormal threats to national security. The game is set in 2025 in a fictional city of Fairpoint, and begins as the unit is joined by a newly assigned rookie known only as Point Man. At a facility owned by Armacom Technology Corporation, a psychic oppressive named Paxton F.E.A.R has gone rogue. The company was formerly known as an aerospace manufacturer and medical research company. In reality, ATC are a hugely powerful private military company, dabbling in cytogenetics, nuclear technology, cloning, and telepathy. They were attempting to develop a unit of technically controlled clone soldiers that would be controlled telepathically by F.E.A.R. However, as the story goes, he is now using the replicas to seize control of the facility. The mission of the 3-person F.E.A.R team, Point Man, Sarge, and Spencer, was to eliminate F.E.A.R, which will automatically shut down the replicas. As the game progresses, the player will see hallucinations of a girl in red, a ghostly apparition known as Elma Wade, who is a key figure in one of the main antagonists of F.E.A.R series, a powerful psychic who seeks revenge against Armacom Technology Corporation due to their usage of her in a series of inhumane experiments and secret projects with the aim of making her powers financially viable. Later in the game, in the Origins facility, Point Man discovers that Elma was only 8 when she was brought into Origin, 15 when the first prototype was born, and she is the girl in the red dress. He also learns that Wade is planning on freeing Elma from stasis in the Origin facility, even though she officially died in 2005. Remember, this game takes place in 2020. After her death, the facility was sealed until 2025, when it was reopened. Later on, Point Man then has hallucinations in which F.E.A.R tells him that they are brothers and they were both born of Elma. Point Man is the first prototype, finding F.E.A.R and shoots him in the head, rendering the replicas dormant. He then witnesses a character named Wade, who is revealed to be Elma's father, releasing her from stasis. She immediately kills him and Point Man heads to the facility's nuclear reactor core to overload it. And towards the end of the game, as the facility explodes, Point Man escapes and is picked up by Delta Force helicopter, on board which are Holiday and Jen, as it flies over the mushroom cloud. The helicopter loses power and Elma pulls herself up into the cabin and the game cuts to black. Ultimately, F.E.A.R is one hell of a game, and I really enjoyed this game. And I really have to say, the game holds up really well, as I enjoyed revisiting it for this video. The game has a subtle, slow story narrative, but it does manage to keep the player interested in what is going on. And like I mentioned earlier, the game manages to be pretty creepy at certain moments, just like this. Overall, I really wanted to look back at this game, as it is a classic in my opinion. I really wanted to briefly talk about this one. If you enjoyed this video, please be cool and hit that like button, as it really helps out my channel. Also, consider subscribing to McKiLL TV for more classic games just like this. Also, if you're interested in news and updates regarding this channel, please be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, as it's McKiLL_TV. There I promote my videos. But until next time, this has been McKiLL TV, and I'll catch you in a future video.
There he is.
I don't know how you lived through that. We still don't know the extent of the damage.
We haven't been able to get through to anyone since the explosion. What about Alma? What happened to her? What was that sound?